The Meridian by Unwritten Lines. Chapter 1. Arrival. The rain fell in relentless sheets as David stepped off the empty road and gazed up at the towering silhouette before him. The hotel loomed like a shadow torn from another time. Its facade stretched high into the clouds, each window dark, each shutter half-hinged and trembling in the storm. The once proud sign above the entrance hung crooked, the letters faint but still legible. The Meridian. He had not meant to find it. He had only followed the twisting road, driven by the storm, until the shape of the building emerged from a mist like a memory trying to return. Something about the name stirred unease, as though he had read it before, somewhere in the margins of a forgotten book. The heavy doors creaked open with surprising ease when he pushed. Inside, the storm faded into muffled echoes, replaced by the stale breath of dust and damp carpet. The grand lobby stretched out before him, dim and colorless. Chandeliers hung overhead, their crystals dulled by time, like cobwebs of glass. Chairs stood at uneven angles, as if guests had only just left in haste, leaving no time to straighten them. And there, at the center of the room, stood the reception desk. Upon it lay a thick, leather-bound ledger. The book was open. The pages were yellowed. The ink spread into feathery veins. Name after name, each followed by dates of arrival. But the final entry bore no signature, no date, only two words, written in a hand that slanted desperately, as though carved more than written. Still here. David closed the book quickly, his chest tightening. The hotel felt less abandoned now. It felt as though it was waiting. Chapter 2. The First Night. The room assigned to him, though he had signed nothing, was on the 4th floor. The key had been lying on the counter, brass and heavy, the number 412 engraved deep. The hallway leading to it was lined with patterned carpet, colors faded, yet the intricate design seemed to shift with each step. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, revealing darker stains beneath. Room 412 greeted him with silence. The bed sagged toward its center, the sheets brittle and rough. A single chair stood by the window, angled outward, facing the storm. That night, David lay sleepless. The mattress creaked at the slightest movement, the springs digging into him. The clock on the wall ticked without rhythm, twitching forward and pausing as though uncertain of time itself. When sleep finally crept over him, it came jagged and thin, dreams pressed in, figures without faces standing in the hall, shadows pacing just outside the door. The sound of rustling pages filled his head, though no books were near. Voices whispered behind the walls, their words brushing against him like breath, never distinct, always beyond reach. He woke, gasping. On the table beside his bed, the ledger now lay open, though he knew he had left it in the lobby below. Across its page, in faint strokes of ink that bled into the fibers of the paper, was written, "Finish what was never finished." The words faded even as he stared, leaving only blankness behind. Chapter 3. Echoes of the Past. By daylight, the Meridian seemed almost grand again. Sunlight forced its way through tall windows, casting pale light across the lobby's broken tiles. David explored slowly. In one corridor, he found a wall of portraits, yet each frame held blurred faces, as though the images had been smeared by a wet brush. Names had been engraved on small brass plates, but the letters had corroded into nothing more than scratches. On a desk in what had once been a lounge, a stack of letters lay half buried in dust. He brushed one open with care. "I will tell you everything when." Another, "The truth must never." Another still, "If anyone should find this, let them know." Each one ended mid-sentence, cut short by silence. In a cupboard hidden behind a warped door, he discovered a diary. The first pages were filled with ordinary notes, weather reports, menus of meals, comments on neighbors. But as the pages turned, the handwriting grew unsteady, frantic. Sentences broke apart into fragments. Cannot stay here much longer. The walls are not empty, they are full of... Someone will read between the lines. The final entry ended mid-word. The rest of the pages were blank. Chapter 4. A Gathering Storm. That evening, clouds swelled heavy and dark beyond the windows. The storm returned with vengeance, hammering against the glass. David opened the ledger again. New words had appeared, faint, crooked, as though written by a shaking hand. You are the last. Write it down. He felt the room grow colder. Drawers slid open on their own. The curtains shifted though the windows were sealed. Papers rustled across the floor like restless leaves. The candle he lit sputtered and stretched its flame toward the ceiling, as if pulled upward by something unseen. Sleep eluded him. When his eyes finally shut, he dreamed of the hotel itself shifting, bending its halls into labyrinths. He dreamed of photographs staring at him, their blurred faces twisting toward recognition. And when he woke, the ledger rested once again on the bedside table, waiting. Chapter 5. The Hidden Lines. The study lay at the far end of the second floor. Its wallpaper hung loose, curling from damp. When David pressed it back, faint pencil marks emerged beneath. Words, written over and over, hidden in layers of plaster. The story ends with you. The phrase repeated endlessly, each line slanting, carved as though the writer's hand shook with desperation. Behind the desk, he discovered a panel slightly ajar. With effort, he pried it open. Inside lay a single envelope, its paper yellowed and brittle. On the front, in dark ink, his name had been written. The letter read, "You will not know me, but I knew of you. The truth was buried because it was easier that way. This house, this hotel, was mine, and now it is yours. Your father was not who you believed. He lived here, he hid here, and he left what he could not finish, complete it, or carry the weight of our silence forever." David lowered the paper, his heart thudding. The storm outside deepened, as if the building itself had heard. Chapter 6. The Third Night. That night, the Meridian would not let him rest. Doors down the corridor opened and closed with heavy thuds. Footsteps echoed on the stairs, though no one climbed them. The wallpaper in his room peeled further, curling like fingers away from the wall. At midnight, the mirror across from his bed clouded with mist. Words formed in the condensation. Write the ending. He stumbled back, knocking the chair to the floor. The sound echoed louder than it should, carrying into the halls. He pressed the words into his notebook, his hand shaking, though he did not understand what ending they demanded. Chapter 7. The Rooftop. The storm raged so fiercely that water seeped to the ceiling, dripping onto floorboards. The building shuddered with each gust of wind, compelled by a pull he could not explain. David climbed higher, past the attic, up the narrow stairs that twisted toward the roof. The night sky roared above him. Lightning illuminated the rooftops of the city beyond. But here, on the Meridian's peak, he felt utterly alone. The wind tore at him, threatening to cast him down. He clutched the edge, heart pounding. The roof tiles shifted beneath his feet, slick with rain. Somewhere behind him, the door slammed shut, locking him out in the storm. He realized the hotel was alive in this moment, driving him toward the edge. The wind whispered in voices layered over one another, the same words repeating. Finish it, finish it, finish it. The roof cracked beneath him. He slipped, his hands caught on splintered wood, his body dangling above the darkness. His strength faltered. He felt the hotel decide. Chapter 8. The Last Room. But instead of falling into the storm, David plunged inward. The roof gave way, collapsing beneath him, and he crashed into a hidden chamber just beneath the rafters. The air was thick with dust. His body ached from the fall, but as his eyes adjusted, he realized he was not in ruin, but in a room preserved. A single bed stood neatly made. A desk faced a small window, and upon the desk, untouched by time, lay a suitcase. With trembling hands, he opened it. Inside was a ledger, older, darker than the one downstairs. Its pages were filled with frantic script, his father's name appearing again and again, crossed out, rewritten, unfinished. The final page was blank, and a pen lay waiting beside it. The story ends with you. The words were carved into the wood of the desk itself. David sat, the storm raging just beyond the walls. He lifted the pen. His hand trembled, but he began to write, not what he knew, but what the silences had whispered. He wrote of betrayal, of hidden lives, of the weight of secrets that had passed from one generation to the next. When the ink dried, the storm outside began to fade. The hotel groaned as though exhaling. The silence that followed was not oppressive, but relieved. The Meridian was finished with him. At dawn, David descended the stairs. The lobby was brighter now, though no sunlight streamed through the windows. The ledger still lay open on the desk, but its final line had changed. Beneath all the names, beneath all the unfinished words, a single sentence waited. The story is whole now. David placed the key to room 412 upon the counter. He carried the suitcase with him, but left the ledger where it belonged. As he stepped outside, the door closed softly behind him. The storm had broken. The air smelled clean, the street damp and quiet. When he turned back, the hotel loomed as it had before, tall and gray, its windows empty. But as the first light of morning touched its walls, David thought he saw a figure at one window, watching, and upon the glass, for just an instant, words appeared, traced by invisible hands. Still here. Then the reflection vanished, and the Meridian stood silent once more.